It's right here.
And then.
Okay, I have it.
Yay!
I know this book. I know it though.
So the room setup, the computer is facing so that you can see the crowd, and you're projected right now.
Okay, and you guys are broadcasting live on YouTube right now. So if you don't want to be, like, move away from the camera.
Autograph session at the end.
Awesome.
And the other thing, like we talked about earlier, I think it'd be great when the teachers come up, they'll come sit here so that you can kind of chat with them, and then we'll all watch and kind of discuss and listen in. Does that sound okay?
That sounds fantastic. Thank you, guys. I know a lot of you guys have been populating a sheet with questions, because we never get to, we get to just a fraction of the questions. So I'm happy to go back into that same document and just write any kind of responses. I may or may not have the answers to your questions, but I can at least respond with my thoughts on them if we don't get to them today. So thank you. Thanks for doing that. I also been doing a podcast every other week or so. And so I have several questions from another book study, and I'm going to try to respond to those on air. So I will let y'all know if those go into the podcast.
Cool. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you.
So I thought it would be kind of fun to hear first, before the questions come, just a little bit about the different, so each week that the teachers have been meeting, they've been agreeing or committing to something they'd try from your book.
Awesome.
So I thought it'd be cool for you to just hear a scope of the different things that they've tried. And then we can get to the questions. Does that sound okay?
That'd be so amazing. I would be so honored to hear that.
Okay, so I don't know the best way to do this. Do you guys just want to kind of call things out, and I can kind of share if you can't hear? But who wants to start?
The social contracts.
So we've done social contracts.
How's that going?
Really well, actually. They've been more respectful to each other, and it's been a more positive atmosphere in my classrooms.
Oh my gosh, kudos to you for that. Because this is middle school, right?
Yes.
No easy feat. Period. And then to try something different with classroom management in the beginning of a school, in the middle of a school year, is a challenge. So I would say, I'm impressed. I think that's fabulous. I can't imagine the payoffs you're going to have when you start a school year with something like that. So I think that's fabulous. I'm so glad that's working out for you. And we get those social contracts. So in the book, I have credited a company here that does a training called Capturing Kids' Hearts. And I've never been to the training, but I have heard about it. And I know that those are the steps that they go through for that piece. So we credit the Flippin' group with that. So fantastic.
How many of you have done the contracts? So 3 people in the group have done the contracts.
Yeah, I would just say it's not like everything you thought it would be. To not give up on it. And like I said, start the school year with the expectation. This is how our classroom runs. We do a social contract, and then we make a Kahoot about the social contract. And we use it as a reading activity, and it's reinforcing the social contract. And it's just a living document that changes as the year goes on. So I'm really excited that y'all are trying that.
It's been really nice to be able to refer back to it when they're doing something, and then you're like, okay, can we look at our social contract? Is that what we're supposed to be doing?
Right? Because you students made this contract.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and as the years have gone on, I've invited kids to tell me what their pet peeves are. What are the things I'm doing that are not helping you learn? And on one of my last social contracts, it said, "Ms. Alva speaks to us in a pleasant tone," and I had to sign that and try better. There's sometimes I don't. I'm a human, and the kids refer back to it. We all agreed.
They're never scared to call you out. No, never.
But I want to know, it really is a partnership. So it really is right. You're right. It's something to refer back to. And it also was a place, one of the kids, it was sad, they said, our teachers don't listen to us. They tell us, go sit down, go sit down, go sit down. So I want a teacher to listen to us. And I said, I'm telling them, go sit down. And so it gave us an opportunity to talk about when is it appropriate to come up and ask me questions? When is it appropriate to talk with your neighbors? Should you be asking 3 people before you, it's not like I had to go, oh, okay, I'll just never tell you to sit down again. It was an opportunity to talk about, okay, I will listen when it's time to be listening to the speaker and that kind of stuff. So I do love it. I do love that social contract.
Do you use the Kahoot to help onboard new students?
Oh, that's a good idea.
So many new students. How do you manage coming back to that when you get new students every week?
You know what's interesting? What we did was we had an ambassador, and I'm not sure if this is part of their training or if someone just told me to do this. We have somebody in the class, and it can just be somebody, a kind person, that we have them go over the social contract with the new student. Usually in my classroom, the student doesn't speak English and they're new in the beginning of the year. So I walk them over and I use a lot of comprehensible input and talk to them and show them the way I did at the beginning of the year. We don't throw books. See, like I'm throwing a book, we don't do that. And here it says, we don't throw books. And usually that kid's kind of lost and is just kind of nodding, but it's an opportunity for the whole class to see that this is a new person. And as soon as they get comfortable, just like any one of you, they can change the social contract or they can bring something up for debate about the social contract. So when everybody speaks English, they usually ask an ambassador. So definitely if someone speaks that child's language, that's who's going to help them. But they kind of work in conjunction with our I don't know poster. We have a poster of what to say when you don't know what to say. So may I ask a friend for help? Could you please repeat the question? Could I have more time to think? Those kind of things. And that student also, that's the first thing they need to learn is how those phrases so that they can interact in English as soon as they're comfortable doing that. But I love the idea of using the Kahoot. So let's just play our Kahoot again. Because there's visuals in it when we make the Kahoot about the social contract. And y'all are welcome to mine because you might be able to use some of the visuals. We have a kid throwing something and we have a big X over it. We have a kid laughing at somebody and we have a big X over it. And it's part of the Kahoot visuals. So I would encourage that. And I wish I would have thought of that, but we didn't do that.
Thank you. What other strategies have y'all tried? Or commitments have you made?
So we've been talking a lot about grit so testing has just started. And so it was a big thing. We got to that chapter like maybe a week or two before testing. And so then building into testing, it's very difficult because it's not just a math test, it's a reading test along with a math test. And so they get very frustrated because they know the math, but they don't know what it's asking them to do. And so that's a big thing that I addressed with them. And I said, you need to have this grit and you need to work through it and you need to try to persevere through the question and find out what is it asking you to do. And if you don't know, then try one of the math skills that I've taught you and just throw something at it.
Right.
And yeah, it's been really, really helpful with math, with the testing coming up. And I can see them working really hard and trying.
I should have asked y'all's names too. Tell me your name.
Maggie.
Yes. So Maggie, it's so interesting because one of my favorite articles, Larry Ferlazzo, I reference him in the book. And if you're not following him, follow Larry Ferlazzo. Just subscribe to his blog and you get emails every day. And he's just a fantastic secondary teacher. He's an author. He's still teaching. And he's just an authority on all things English learner. And in 2014, I think, is when he published how to make our standardized assessments meaningful for our newcomers. And he talked about grit. It was really interesting because he said it was the best thing he's ever done for his English learners. He said all year long, he's talking to them about grit. So they're familiar with the concept. We don't have to teach them grit. They have grit. We just have to make sure they know the power of it and harnessing that for things like for academics in general. But he talks to them about the stamina of taking a standardized test. And if nothing else, in those 4 hours or however long you're going to be in there, you need to build that stamina, and you need to, definitely do your best, do everything you can. But if nothing else, you're building grit, and you're learning to persevere, because your cohort, your other students have been through since second grade doing these long sustained tests. And we might need to build grit for that. And that's going to make, you don't want, I know it's sad when they come in the middle of the year and we have to have them sit through these tests, but I don't want next year, when they have more English and more math, to be the first time they're taking a test environment seriously and trying to, understand it and get through it. We want them to go in with some background knowledge for it. So that's it. It's a great article I can share with you guys, but you're already doing that.
What was his last name?
Ferlazzo, and you can find him on Twitter at Larry, Larry, Ferlazzo, F like Frank, Ferlazzo, Ferlazzo. I mean, he writes for Education Week and the New York Times and some other publications. He's got a great blog. He's got an amazing blog. If you're going to follow one guy, I'm going to say Larry Ferlazzo.
I found him. Did y'all find him?
And he wrote the ELL Teacher's Toolbox and the ELL Teacher Survival Guide, and just so many great texts for real user-friendly. He's got lots of free videos out there and free downloads from his books that are super practical.
Great. What other strategies? Any more before we get to questions that y'all committed to trying?
I just have a comment. My name is Iris. Hi.
Alice?
Iris.
Iris. Hi, Iris.
Hi. I just wanted to say that, like, reading your book, I thought it was so helpful because you just had so many strategies that we could use the next day or that next week. Like, it was just so user-friendly, and just, I really appreciated it. And one of the things is you talk about, like, the growth mindset and changing that, but I think you changed mine as well, because, like, when you say we need to teach, we need to see the kids as what's the word? We shouldn't see them as SLIFE kids. We should see them as
international students.
Yes. And so it's like, why don't we just do that always?
We don't. I didn't. I didn't. I mean,
that was like such a light bulb moment. And also when you had said, and this is something that I'm truly going to work on next year, you said that the walls need to be dripping with language. And it's like, that's just something that I haven't been doing. And I think that's going to be super useful. So thank you for all that.
Oh, oh my God, you made my day. You made my week. You know what? If you go on Amazon, there is one negative review. Of course, there's great positive reviews, but you're focused on the one negative review, right? Because I'm reading this woman's review and I'm like, okay, I have to be open to constructive criticism. And she said there just were not very many strategies in the book. And I think for me, the lesson there are a lot of books that are written that have maybe an appendix with all the strategies listed in one place, or just more obviously chunked out or something. I thought I chopped it full.
You did. Different color.
But apparently I didn't. So that makes me feel so much better. That makes me feel so good. Thank you, Iris. And I mean, from an honest, just a point of honesty, I did not go into that class, the first class I had with all those SLIFE kids, looking at them like international students. Oh my God, they can't do anything. They're not going to make any progress. And it was the kids themselves over a period of time, just making me have those light bulb moments. It was a real beautiful thing that the publishers that came in to work with me, I was blogging at the time to try to reflect on how to get better at this. And we could take that and turn it into a book. And the more you reflect, the more you realize those things. So I appreciate that speaks to you, but I think it's because it was written from the trenches, from somebody who was drowning and starting to find things that worked with help. My team and anybody out there on Twitter, and a student teacher I had were those people that kept going, but I thought you said they could do it. And I'm like, but they can't. They could. And so then you would go back and try again. And every day they know more English, right?
Yes.
I just had to get out of my head. So thank you for that. That means a lot to me.
I tried I'm Addison. Do you want to?
Hi, Allison. Did somebody
Also, this is my classroom. I'm sorry. It's normally very prep-rich, but it's testing, so it's a little embarrassing. I tried the I don't know poster that you have in your classroom, and it was really helpful for our students. So.
It's insane. I don't even think I put that in the book. That's part of the extra stuff. If you go to my site and look at other things that can help, because our company has a book called The 7 Steps. And that's a super practical book for any classroom. If you're a math teacher, science teacher, kindergarten, high school, whatever, it has 7 things that make your classroom language rich and interactive. And step 1 is that poster. And so I didn't want to just rewrite that book, but now that I'm doing trainings, I'm constantly using that I don't know poster, because everybody says I don't know, or you might want to say I don't know. And that's just not going to be the way that any of us are going to push ourselves and challenge ourselves. So I love that that's helpful to your kids. And if y'all are interested, my son's teacher in his GT classroom has the I don't know poster with about 5 or 6 things, but she has it pocket size, and she has it on everybody's desk. And so she gave me a black line master, or just a master to print out, and we tape it on the inside of the kids' agendas. And that way they might go to a science classroom or a class that's not very language rich, but they've learned, may I ask a friend for help? Could you please repeat the question? And so people like that pocket size to send with their kids around the school or to put on their desk. I'm so glad it's helpful.
It really is, and the kids are using it.
Wow.
Which is really awesome, because it's like the difference between before and then now being like, can you repeat the question? And it's like, well, yes, I can repeat.
Yes, and I phrase it. Yeah. One year, my kids helped me write it. We usually put the first 3, may I ask a friend, and we model that, a friend for help, or could you please repeat the question, or could I have some time to think. But then as they gain more English, they'll help put more on there. And one year they asked me to put, could you please slow down and repeat the question? And so, yeah, when they ask for it, you're like, oh my God, yes, thank you. Thank you for using it. So I'm so glad.
Does anyone have a question? Can I have a brave participant come sit here, say hi to Carol, and ask a question?
All right, here I go.
Thank you. Your first contestant. I told you this was a great
First victim.
Hi, it's Maggie in real life.
Hey, Maggie.
Hi. So my question sort of has to do with, we have a particular student this year who is especially challenging. And so it's sort of just about like when you have that student who he always responds to us with, Miss, no English, Miss, no English. And we always say, I understand nobody else knows English either. I need you, right, but I need you to try. And so, but like he's become accustomed to, he likes getting sent out of the classroom. He likes, being in learning lab, and he likes to, get OSS because he gets to stay home. And we've had meetings with parents, and, the parents are saying it's the same thing at home, that they can't get him to listen. And so I was just wondering, like, what you suggest as far as, because I'm going to have him in my class again next year. And so I want to know, like, what can I do to help him?
Well, I've had that child. I think we've all had that child.
Yes, we have.
Actually, between me and you, I was that child. I mean, between me and you and the world watching, right? We have 2 people watching on YouTube. But I was, and I write about it in the book, that I had a hard time in school. I was way off level for reading. And by high school, I was a behavior problem because it was so much easier. It was so much easier to get kicked out of class, especially if I was at any point, if I was going to be made to look foolish or even just reading aloud. If that round robin reading thing was coming around and I was going to have to read, way easier to throw over the apple cart, to be disruptive, I don't even think I realized at the time that I was consciously doing that. But I was a huge behavior problem, and some of my friends were too. And so what's interesting about that is I got to be a better reader, of course, and I didn't do anything special. I just continued my life, and you see more and more print, and you're exposed to more and more print, and you end up reading more and more. But at the time, I didn't realize that's what would help my decoding skills. So partnering with kids, first of all, and making sure they realize how fast you can gain decoding skills. We're going to have to work every day. You're going to need more English. Every day you're going to need to work with us for higher order thinking, because we're going to stop and negotiate meaning and do things in our native language. But every single day you can get better at decoding independently, actually deciphering text by reading with me. So that was one of the things I wish I would have known, and I would have been less of a behavior issue. So I think what goes along with that is a lot of people say, and I've found success with some of these kids, when they have more wins in class, like intentional wins that I want to make sure that child has. So kind of the way we question, I don't know if y'all have tried that QSSA questioning strategy. Have you tried that one?
That was our chapter this week.
Oh, okay, good.
So not yet.
So when you question, and I also, Michelle Gill is somebody I follow on Twitter out of Canada, and I need to tell Megan this, if I haven't shared with you, we have a script for QSSA that the teacher can just hold and fill in the question and the signal, and it makes it real easy to practice doing that questioning strategy. But it gives all kids more wins. It gives them more of an opportunity to be engaged and to be ready with an answer. And there's always still the I don't know poster. And that student, if they're more engaged, if they're having more wins, a lot of times they'd rather be in OSS because they don't feel like they're going to be successful in math or in biology. So whatever little wins and little wins lead to higher wins. And really that's about raising the bar with support, like not dumbing things down for them, but showing them you can do this, you can do this with your group, or where does that child shine? I don't know. I would ask the rest of the group, have y'all had success with this type of kiddo when you give him more responsibility? Has anybody seen that to work?
I've actually seen something like that work in the past.
I'm thinking of a student that I had this past year that was such a problem. And it seems ridiculous and counterintuitive that I made him the person who would take things to the office, and people would be like, he's not coming back. I was like, yes, he is. And, I would just shower him with praise when he came back, or any jobs and things like that, just making him feel more important and more valued in the class, and not just, okay, everybody has to learn this. I know it's hard for you, but persevere. But really, I don't know. Those are just the things that I would try first. But I would also put in there that there are kids that I've gotten to the end of the school year and I didn't unlock that puzzle. Like I let the school year ended and I felt like I never really reached them. And what I would offer you was, I know there are teachers out there that felt like they never reached me. I know they do. I know there are. Or at least they ended the school year feeling that way. But later, when I did wake up and I needed to work really, really hard to close some gaps, I needed the memories of those teachers. I really needed to remember that somebody, even up until the last day, even when I wanted them to give up on me, did not.
Right.
And they thought I could do it. And then now that I think maybe I can do it, now I'm 20 and I think maybe I can do it, I was so grateful that I had teachers who didn't give up on me. So I would just say, don't ever, ever, ever give up. Just keep trying and just keep trying.
Every day. It's a fresh start.
It is, but kudos to you for trying to unlock whatever.
We'll let you know if we unlock him.
Well, relationships are everything. So awesome.
Great question. Do we have another one?
We do.
Yes.
Go, Miss Leon.
Does it matter which we ask?
No, do you want to pick one that interests you from the list, maybe? You have another contestant.
I love this.
I'm really nervous. Hi, I'm Adriana.
Hi, Adriana. What do you teach, Adriana?
I teach 8th grade English, ELD, and sheltered math this year.
You are doing God's work.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's just middle school period.
Yes, 8th graders. Ay. That's okay. Okay. So one of the questions here says, what do you think the best way is to show students that you value their native language, but you want them to try speaking in English?
Okay. Well, for me, what's worked really, really well is starting day one. But, like I said, a lot of these things were ahas in the middle of the school year. So that first year I wasn't doing this on day one. But as soon as I saw the power of it, we absolutely did it. So it's kind of two things that I feel like need to happen every single day in my class. And that is that we write together and that we read together. And so it can be, I do that language experience approach. Y'all are probably, if you're not already at that point in the book, you'll come to a point in the book where I explain language experience approach. It's been around since the 70s. And it's just a way where everybody's had a common experience. And I'm going to get from them in any language, just so long as they can convey to me something that everybody understands, then I write one sentence at a time. And they copy it and we read it. So a lot of things are happening in that for the English language production. They're reading in unison. So they're speaking, at least practicing oral language practice. They're reading with me. And so that's an I do, you do approach to reading, because I read it first, then everybody reads it together. And then when we're done, they go find a partner and they read it independently. But we've already read it a couple of times. We read it when we read the sentence. We read it when we were halfway through the anchor chart. Then we finish the whole chart and we read the whole thing together. And then they go in. And even if the reading is not that great, it gets better and better as the school year goes on. But they understand what we wrote. They're the author. So there's no trying to comprehend the text. But then we have a mentor text that we can do a lot of things with. So I'm not worried about native language production in my class, because we are doing a ton of English language production every single day, because we do language experience approach. The first thing we do the next day is read yesterday's. We read it again. And now we're going to, now what are we going to do it about? And it becomes, the first we did was about Nabil falling out of a tree. He fell out of a tree and everybody was laughing about it. And I didn't even understand their language, but they could convey that he felt he was stealing somebody's oranges on the way to school and he fell out of the tree. And it was so funny. And because they were so engaged with that common experience, we could write about that. And then we did more and more experiences, but then the experiences started to become about mitosis. We're going to watch a little 3-minute video about cell division, and I don't need to be a science teacher. I can just ask them, what do you wonder? What do you think that's about? What is mitosis? You're going to learn about it in science in about a month, but let's write what you wonder. And so again, like she was saying, like Iris was saying, the walls start ripping that they can read. So honoring their native language. We do things from day one that I bet a lot of you guys do. You ask them to write something in their native language or show you your name. We're constantly asking them to tell us things. We make cahoots about their cultures and their favorite holiday traditions. And, we ask them to write it in English and in their language, but they have to first write it in their language. And anytime we're constantly praising any literacy they have in their native language, I just constantly tell them that they want to build that as much as possible. Don't go home and stop speaking your native language. Make sure you're still building that. One thing we did at the end of the school year that was fabulous and everybody loved, it was after testing, and it was just one of those activities to kind of wrap up the school year. They got randomly paired up, but I had sentence frames in English, but the sentence frames, and I have this if you want it, I can give you the Google Doc. It said, my partner is blank, he speaks blank. I speak, or my native language is blank, because everybody had different languages. And so we had them teach each other a phrase, but they had to write the phrase in their language if they could, and write it in English, somehow get it in English so that I would understand what that phrase was. But then they got to present. This was all in one class period. They went out in the hall, they went to different places, and they taught each other a phrase in their native language. And they said it was one of their favorite parts of the school year, learning how to say, you can do anything in Arabic, or learning. It was really interesting too what phrases they gave each other. You know, he just had some others and it needed to be, appropriate and stuff like that. And so, but I've also had teachers where everybody's native language is Spanish. So they still can do activities like that. The two kids together learn to say something in a third language, and they presented that, but they told it to me in Spanish because I just told them, I love everybody's native language, and I want to hear these things in your native language, and then I want to hear it in English so that I understand it in English. I think any activity like that, especially where you have English frames around it, you're still going to hit your language objective for that day, whatever it is. But honoring their native language, we just sprinkle it throughout the year. The other thing too is when you're in the writing process for any language arts teachers or any teacher, if kids are writing in your class or writing to learn, so they're writing about math, they're writing a ticket out, they're writing any of that, you definitely want sentence frames and encourage them to write as much as they can or copy in English, but allow them to think and write and reflect in their language. Because it would be really hard for me and you to go to Germany tomorrow and reflect in German on anything. So in the writing, and what did you say you were teaching in 8th grade?
I teach 8th grade English and math.
So in the writing process, when they're going to write a narrative or an expository piece of text or a persuasive text or whatever they're going to write, that rough draft, I'm encouraging the kids to write that in their native language.
Okay.
That's about getting your ideas down. That's about getting all your ideas down, brainstorming, even taking the brainstorm into a rough draft, the revising and changing and adding and all of that. But you have to turn it in English. Right. But that's part of the writing process, and it can be a peer editing, and Google Translate can be part of that. But in the final published piece, we're not even going to worry about spelling until that's the end of the writing process.
Right.
So I think we honor native language a lot when we allow kids to think and process and write in their native language. And then during the writing process, we know the published piece should be in English so that it can be graded. We can do that. We've got tech and peer tutors in my desk to help you get the final product in English.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
But we have kids who love to write, just not in English. And a tweak on that is if they want to write in Spanish, that's great. We got to get it in English, and you're going to have to present it in English. And if they really care about the writing, I have a couple of projects that kids really want to do. All kids want to do. They come up with a playlist. They're songs that tell about themselves and are nostalgic. And they present. And they only take 5 minutes of class to present. But they practice the English so that they can present that piece of writing and that thinking. So tell me, just email me if you want those paragraph frames and those project planning papers.
Yeah, we definitely want them.
Okay. Yeah, I got them from Noah Daniel. She's in Canada, and she teaches middle school, and it's not even English learners. But her What's in a Name project, kids have to research their name and ask their parents and get on the internet and then analyze if that's a good name for me. And if they love it, they love explaining their culture and how they were named and why they were named, what they were named, and they learn things about all parts of their name So you'll love them. You'll love those projects. But we don't use class time for those. We do those outside of class. Noah does the building outside the blocks of time. And then if you want to present, you just need to tell me the 5 minutes, which day on the calendar you'll be ready. And you have 5 minutes to show a little clip and talk for 5 minutes. And they do them.
That's so interesting.
Okay. But follow Noah. Noah, do you know? She's at Noah's Boss, NOASBOBS, for building outside the box. Thank you for that question.
Is your former student still there studying?
No, they left. They left. I was they were gonna play basketball outside until I was done, but I forget my teenager is old enough to drive now, which is their friends. But we had lots. There's 2 kids that are in the book that were here this afternoon. Francis, who I talk about in the first chapter, and he was kind of a leader. Thankfully, he was a good kid and a bigger kid, and they all listened to him, and he helped me settle things down. And Francis was here. And it's interesting is Francis still can't read. I mean, he says he can read a little bit in Arabic, but he's definitely stronger in English. And another student was here, Kamal, who was also in that group. And Kamal says, I definitely can't read in Arabic. I cannot read in my native language. And Kamal didn't have very much formal education either. And both of them were here studying the biology end of course exam. And Kamal passed our algebra end of course exam last year. And I mean, he's on video on my site talking about, if you go through the videos on my site, talking about why he doesn't give up. He understands that every day he knows more English, and every day he can read more English, and every day he knows more math, and every day he can know more biology. So why would he give up? He just wants to continue. And then once he passes a test like that, now it's possible. So he's just going to, moving forward. He uses those words. I'm just going to keep moving forward. And it's so inspiring. And he failed the algebra end of course exam, not once, not twice, 2 full years of the administrations. But his second year in high school, he passed it. And so, that's what we need. I mean, we've got kids who still haven't passed it, who were born here.
Yeah. Well.
So he's an inspiration, but I don't know why it wouldn't be possible. There's nothing wrong with Kamal. He was just never taught to read and write. And so teach him.
Our English learners in Metro Nashville are outperforming our native speakers in growth in a lot of our testing areas. So we're really proud of it. And I think it has to do with a lot of the grit, yes, and the teachers that are dedicated to
teachers. They're the mindset of the teachers. Because if the teacher has a mindset that they can't do it, they're right. Because we wouldn't give kids the things they need to do it. We would say, poor baby, they can't do it. And I have to fight that every day. So I get kudos to your teachers who keep challenging themselves and reminding themselves and raising the bar, because kids can only go up to the bar. If we have a really low bar, that's where they're going to be.
Right.
So bravo, amazing. I think that's so inspiring.
It's great. Do we have another question? We have a little time left for.
I'll ask maybe.
Yeah. Their fabulous EL coach is coming up to the podium.
Yay.
Hi, Coach.
My name's Leslie.
Leslie, I've heard awesome things about you, Leslie.
Oh, that's so sweet. And really, thank you for making my job easier, because your book has given these teachers so much inspiration and ideas. So
I'll have to tell my co-author, Anna Mattis. She made that possible. I could write a book. I was teaching.
I know. So impressive, for sure.
Anna helped so much with all of that. So I'll tell her, too, that thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you, Anna. So I think this is one that really our whole group kind of sees as a struggle sometimes in our school-wide. And it's something that I really want to work on as a coach for next year. But this is a question from one of our teachers. How does collaboration look like with other content teachers? And what are some ways that you provide support / challenge the mindset of other teachers who maybe aren't as familiar with advocacy for ELs or the strategies around helping?
Yeah. Yeah, that's always going to be a challenge because everybody's load is so heavy.
Yeah.
And there's somebody that I would follow. Her name is Andrea Honixfeld.
Okay.
She's actually going to be our keynote speaker for Virtuel. So you guys make sure all the teachers email me and I'll give you the link. On June 15th, there is an English learner conference that everybody can go to because that's a Saturday or a Sunday, but it's all on YouTube. It's all on YouTube, and so you can do it from your home, and it's really fun to watch it live because you can interact with the presenters. And Jana Echeverria was our keynote last year. And I mean, these are big, heavy hitters that are the keynotes and the breakout sessions. So it's great to interact live, but even if you can't make it live, you can see last year's Virtuel. And Andrea Honigfeld gave a breakout session last year, and she is just a guru of teaching. So I would say
we've had her come out to Nashville a couple times.
So awesome.
With Dove,
with Maria Dove.
Yes.
They're both going to be the keynotes for Virtuel. So I would say what collaboration looks like, what it should look like, that's where you're getting your model. Andrea Honixfeld and Maria Dove have some outstanding, amazing resources for teachers to see what it could look like in different scenarios. Now, from my perspective, from the last 3 jobs that I had more time with some teachers than others. Really, my last couple of years, I was in a high school where I had virtually no collaboration time with any of the content teachers, not because they didn't want to. They invited me to their PLCs. I could have gone. The thing was, I was working every other day and consulting every other day. So part of that was I was unavailable as much as they wanted to. But I would say we were able to collaborate on the fly with a lot of teachers because, for an example, I had a new teacher come up and tell me she was an English 3 teacher and they were reading The Great Gatsby. And she knew the kids were intelligent. She knew this child could do it, but he can't read The Great Gatsby. Even the kids born here have trouble with the language and how it's written. So we collaborated for 15 minutes at a time in the workroom when we knew we were going to be there at the same time. Some of our collaboration was virtual too. We would, get together. Now we have a lot of other things. We could have used Flipgrid or what are some of the things now, Marco Polo and different things to talk back and forth. But what was really fascinating, that kid did great with The Great Gatsby. One of the things was we asked the student himself. We were both talking to him. I was talking to him in my classroom and she was talking to him about this challenge. And meanwhile, he went and found it in Arabic. And so he read what he could in Arabic, not during class. During class, and this is for English language arts teachers, it really changed our lens. What she wanted them to learn from The Great Gatsby was the characterization, how the characters affected the outcome and the resolution, how their characters changed, different things like literary devices that were used. There are all these standards that they wanted the kids to learn. Personification is an example that he could absolutely tell you fire doesn't really dance, and he could show you in the book. So what was interesting is Ali read the book in Arabic on his own. And some of our kids who don't have literacy, there's a movie. They can watch that. It's just giving them an idea and a gist of what's being read in class. And then the teacher told me that my students aren't the only ones below level for reading. So she has, when everybody's independent reading, she does have a group she reads to if they want to come up and listen and track. So I'm telling my students, track the print while anybody's reading to you because you're getting decoding skills. But what I want you to do in language arts is hit the standards, hit personification, characterization, the plot, how those characters affect the outcome, the resolution, and they could do all of that. And they can understand more than they can say. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I really like the idea of talking through with content teachers that you have low level, readers in your classes too. And these things all help everybody. I really like that idea.
It's really interesting because sometimes they go, well, right, I have some special ed students. So, okay, that's good and bad.
Yeah.
First of all, whatever you're doing for your students to differentiate will likely work for these students. If you have students like, let's take a dyslexic student, for example, they can't maybe physically write or read at the same pace everybody else is. You're not going to tell them they don't have to do it. You're just going to do something maybe oral or get things orally, and we can write and get at least a draft down for them to participate. But the interesting thing we need to keep in mind with our SLIFE students is it's not a disability. Yes. So whatever you're doing for them in August, you shouldn't have to do that much of it in December and in April and in March.
Yeah.
They go at a much faster rate than some of the other demographics who have a cognitive delay or something else going on. So I would say collaborate with teachers on the fly, virtually, and definitely incorporate these skills in the process.
Yeah.
Talk to the kids if the kids can't help get through some of this stuff also. But then your other half of your question was how do we get teachers to have more empathy and understand what's going on? Was that part of it?
Definitely, yeah.
And my top tip for that is experiences that put you in the shoes of an English learner. Mm-hmm. There's a great video that Megan's probably done something like this, or you have, where you have a lesson for your teachers in Serbian or in German.
Yeah.
Some people do it in Spanish, but a lot of our teachers speak Spanish, so we want something they don't speak.
Yeah, German's good.
Valentina Gonzalez has a fantastic 3-minute and 4-minute video in Serbian, and half of it she does with no support, and the other half does it again with comprehensible input. And it's such an aha moment.
Love.
Really, those kind of things. It's not that the teachers don't want to help the students. We need, even me, all of us, constant reminders of how hard these kids are working. And then what's possible. The second time Valentina does it, we understand her.
Yeah.
So that's
Can you repeat that name?
Yeah, Valentina. Her Twitter handle is Valentina ESL. You'll find her on Twitter. She's got tons of followers and she puts out so much content. And her name is Valentina Gonzalez. And she actually works for our company now. She works for Sidelets Education. We're so excited to have Valentina on board.
Awesome.
But she's a consultant and she puts stuff out there. And then again, Larry Ferlazzo has a post where he has the top videos to use with content teachers for your professional development.
Love it.
We really have to lift up content teachers, and because we're constantly beating down their throat. You're a language teacher too. Everybody's a language teacher. I get it. They get it. Okay, they glaze over. They're like, I know. We have to teach math though, and we have to make sure and make sure that we're showing them. I think that they deserve to see what parts of what we're suggesting help kids learn math.
Yeah.
Help kids learn social studies. We're not asking you to teach writing. We're asking you to teach math with some writing because they're going to learn, all kids are going to learn the math better. And so just give a frame and everybody is supported. And so it's just a little bit of a shift to show the content teachers what's in it really for them in terms of content learning.
Yeah.
And those videos are great. He has a whole post, and so I can share that with you too.
Love it. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
We'd all need help.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for those videos out there. We use them.
Any other burning questions?
On that post by Larry, I'm so honored because he has a couple of my students talking to teachers, like saying, if you'll just show visuals and use gestures, I don't need to translate everything with my translator, and it's better for me. And so those kind of videos talking directly to teachers really help content teachers too.
So I feel like we're in a really good place to kind of pause and let them kind of chew on their learning, because now as testing wraps up, the team is going to have this last month of school to finish really strong and try. We've talked a lot about like just trying some new things and you know, even if you strike out or it feels weird or it doesn't work, it's okay. But
hey, yeah, that's the name of the game. I'm writing actually a chapter for Larry's new book, the ELL Teacher's Survival Guide. I'm super honored that he wants me to talk about reflection, because a lot of what is in that book is because I was failing with these kids. We were going nowhere for a while. It was a real hot mess. And I started asking for help, asking people to watch me, and tons of reflection. I had the advantage of extra planning periods because we were supposed to be building a newcomer center. And so I was supposed to reflect and figure things out, and then try it differently the next day until we knew what the newcomer center was going to look like. So by the end of that school year, we never did open a newcomer center. The kids were in regular classes. We had an ESL class that supported them, and that's what we went forward with. And that's, so, but the thing is, it really was a reflection piece where you stop and be intentional, not just driving home in my car going, okay, what went well today? What didn't? Okay, now I got to make dinner. So the next year when I didn't have any extra, I had less planning time. I had been videotaping myself and watching that video. It's horrible. It's horrible. Like, all these things are wrong. And they are going to be, but I got some great advice to narrow into one thing that you want to improve. And, we tell kids, and then just keep watching the tape, do it again the next day. You see what you didn't see on the tape, just like a football player. And so it really is the failures. Like you said, Megan, if it doesn't work, try it again. We tell kids that every day. We want them to take risks, to embrace failure, and to try it again differently. But I never was reflecting on my practice that much and that intentionally. And there's a lot of ways to do it. There's blogging, there's journaling, there's collaborating like you guys are right now. This is so fabulous because you are taking extra time just to think about these things. And so I just honor you all. And go out there and fail and try again and tell the kids, I'm going to do it again because this did not work last week. And they'll partner with you. It's fantastic.
And celebrate the successes. We don't do enough of that too.
Y'all don't do enough of that, I know, because you're teachers and we only beat ourselves up. But it sounds to me like y'all are having a lot of successes. And I'm just honored to be any part of your journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. How can we follow your podcast? So you've got the podcast coming up. Where can we find that? And in case some of these questions,
they will. Y'all had some great questions. So I have the podcast. Everything is on the blog, and the blog is my last name with my first initial. So salvac.edublogs.org. If you go to salvac.edublogs.org, the last post is going to be something I did last week. Whenever I do a breakout session at a conference, I try to do a post about it. So if you weren't at that conference, you can see, or you could turn it around. You could use it to give a breakout session. So I explain everything in a blog that I do for any breakout session. So people like following it just because, there's learning in that. But anytime I do a podcast, I also do a blog post. So you can just click in the menu on podcast and see all 50 episodes. Or you can just scroll back through the recent ones and see the most recent, because not everybody wants to listen. So I write a post and put all the show notes and the links. And that is a huge reflection for me. That is it's all about a learning journey. Anybody that follows my show knows that I'm not sitting there going, this is the way to do this. I'm saying what I think, but it's part of a learning journey. And people write me and say, you know what? That's not right. Just last time I was using the word argumentative essay, and I should have been saying persuasive essay. And I said argumentative too many times and it's not the same thing. So I went back, re-recorded, and I went on air and said, this is part of my learning journey, and this is a real important piece. So I'm re-recording this. It's just learning. Out there learning. So that's where you can find it. And then if I do this episode, when I do this episode with your questions, I'll make sure you have a direct link to that too.
Oh, great.
But the podcast is on everything. It's on iHeartRadio. It's on Apple iTunes. It's SoundCloud, everywhere.
Great. And the resources that you shared that some of the teachers are interested in using, where can we find those?
Well, I can send you. I'm going to have to listen to this hour. I'm going to have to go back and watch and reflect on this hour. And really, and that's a good thing for me too. I'll go through and look at what all I told you I would give you. And then I can send that to you in an email.
Okay.
If I don't, email me and go, where is it?
Thank you so much.
Ah.
Well, it's been a long day for everybody, so we really appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you. I'm applauding you. Okay, guys, go out and stay awesome. And please connect with me, and please follow me on Twitter and Facebook.
Oh, can I tweet about this?
I already did.
You beat me to it.
So everybody look this way, and I'll take a picture of all of you guys to tweet that.
I had a big head out of the way.
No, you got to be in it.
I don't want to block somebody.
Okay, well, back up your big head then. Okay, y'all say something. Okay, there. You had to say it so you'd be on screen. Okay, so look on Twitter. I'll tag you, Megan, and I'll tag your middle school because McMurray Middle has a Twitter account.
Yes.
I'll see that in just a couple minutes.
Good. We'll escalate it and share the good news. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. And thanks to anybody who was watching. We had a few viewers.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.